Hey guys, before the video starts, I just wanted to say I streamed this playthrough here on the channel. I'm going to try and stream regularly on Sunday nights whenever I can, usually around 7 PM EST, so if you want to stop by and say hi, I'd be happy to have you. Alright, on to the video. In Rimworld, players control a colony full of people who must work together to prolong their miserable lives. There are 12 skills in total in Rimworld, and any good colony will have characters who specialize in 2 or 3 at a time. For today's challenge, I decided to do the group project by myself in the lone wolf scenario with one specific caveat. I could never have more than one pawn. Tasks normally completed by 3 to 4 settlers would now be the responsibility of only one person. Not only that, this person was trapped on a backwater world that never progressed beyond the medieval ages. The comforts of automation and technology never existed and never would exist, leaving my lone colonist to suffer in the Dark Ages. For this challenge, I played as Single, a vagrant knight with literal rocks for brains and an extremely high capacity for violence. The storyteller was Maynard Medieval, who I downloaded from the Steam Workshop. Day 1. Single landed in the mountain passes next to a river along with her husky Yumiko. In the Medieval Overhaul mod, every settlement starts with a secret timer. Death stingers lurk in the corners of the map and will eventually flock to your colony in search of food. And since they're winged insectoids birthed from the seed of Lucifer, they can end most runs before they start. To avoid this, I burst through a nearby wall and found a hidden cavern. This literal hole in the wall would shelter Single from all the bad things. And in Rimworld, you never run out of bad things to hide from. Single's skills were largely focused on combat. If it didn't involve delimbing someone, she wasn't very good at it. She was pretty good at hoarding things while the dog watched. That was pretty helpful. Running out of space is not helpful. That is very much the opposite. It was the first day in, and I was already starting to realize just how rough this was gonna be. Normally, one person could mine or build while other people hauled or worked on other tasks. Single here was going to have to juggle everything without starving or getting sleep deprived. And considering most of her passions were in combat, she was going to be terrible at every possible household task, especially at the beginning of things. Day 2. Because of Single's late night laboring, she slept until 4 PM. After eating dried meat off the dirty floor, she set about building a perimeter around her home. This would have gone faster if she didn't spend 2 hours cutting down a single tree, but in her defense, she's completely worthless. Honestly, it's my fault for having expectations or standards. That's very unfair to her, especially when she's so consistent. She's shit at foresting, but that's okay. She's also shit at construction. Then, the buzzing, stinging neighbors had finally noticed my activities and decided to investigate. I noticed too late and made the tactical decision to lock myself in the house with one of this map's apex predators. Between Single and Yumiko, the insect was slain with minor setbacks. Minor, bloody, puncture-woundy setbacks. Unfortunately, the Death Stingers saw this as an act of aggression. The interspecies conflict had begun with the good guys drawing first blood. But the battle was far from over. Fortunately for Single, the insects had been wounded from fighting a cougar. This was a window of opportunity. I sent Single to courageously fight the wounded, crippled Death Stingers before they could hurt her. Single's first combat ended in her favor. As punishment for bruising her, I had the Death Stingers' houses demolished. Seriously though, do not let these things stay around if you're playing this mod. They will never leave you alone. Day 3. The corpses were moved, and construction on my walls were in full swing. A man named Hadley came to visit my colony, but he had nothing to trade, so I just ignored him. He left the very next morning, but not before taking on all the remaining Death Stingers all by himself, and winning. Folks from House Soren are built differently. Very, very differently. The next couple days blew right by. I constructed and slowly began to furnish my home. I wasn't ready to plant any crops yet. Self-reliance was still a long way off after all. Instead, I had to be frugal and live off the kindness of strangers. In other words, playing with a solo colonist is like playing as a bottom feeder. And that's fine with me. I play Project Zomboid. I am very used to ass-eating my way to the top. Day 6. Sirens called. Alarms were raised. My very first raider had arrived. Squid. A naked man with a pointy stick and a head shaped like someone whose mother really liked pregnancy drinking. He hit Yumiko, so Yumiko ripped his arm out of its socket. Single also tore his lung out, and then she hacked off his other arm. It takes a brave man to see a fully decorated knight and her hound and decide, I'm gonna mug her with my stick. And, for his bravery, Squid got to join the meat pile on my floor. Day 9. A rat joined my colony, and as a gift, he brought a whole meteor with him. I considered kicking him out, then I immediately decided against it. This creature could pull meteors out of the sky and drop them next to my base. I don't know what eldritch deity this was or why it had taken the shape of a rat, but I do know that if he wanted to shit on my floor and eat my food, then by God, that's what he was gonna do. Day 10. I finally got around to planting some crops. Single spent the next few days researching how to cut and split lumber. Studying at low levels of intelligence is really hard at the best of times, but Single's research station was a tile in the goddamn corner with some random scraps of paper. In a dark, filthy cave in the side of a mountain. Even if her brain wasn't just a collection of pocket lint and paint chips, this was gonna be a slow process. Yumiko caught the flu, so we just kept her indoors and had her sleep next to Single while she did her homework. On day 14, we were raided again. Single never noticed because Adams decided to bull rush me while I had company. A lot of it. All she heard was a bunch of screaming and then immediate silence. The encounter netted her one loaf of soggy bread she found on the ground next to a bloody corpse. That's not even that weird, that's just normal daily life in the Dark Ages. I've played Dark Souls, I know how these things work. Day 16. The start of a new month. It had been almost a full week since my research on how to cut logs began. It turns out that using a table saw is an extremely complicated skill that takes days to grasp. A raider saw how tired and sad the constant bookwork was making poor Single, so he decided to cheer her up. Where are you going? Where are you going? Morton? Morton? Bud? Are you... Morton? Ma'am. Ma'am? Ma'am, why are you... Oh no. Oh dear. Oh. Oh. What the? This would not be the only time a human was offered to the insectoid den. Day 18. The research for my lumber mill was finally finished. Single would be able to make boards and furniture. Just one more thing to add to her growing list of responsibilities. Not even 20 days in, and I was really feeling how awful it was to only have the one person. Every hour in the day was really starting to matter. If anything happened to Single and she had to spend time recovering, everything was going to fall apart. Yumiko's a good girl, but the only job she can do is hauling, and Single would have to spend extra time just to train her how to do even that. But I wasn't worried. Not because I had a great plan. No. No, I'm just an absolute fucking moron, and I wasn't really aware how delicate the situation was. A raid from someone with any level of competence was almost certain to end my run in its tracks. The only preparations I'd done was building a trap hallway. Without any traps. And Maynard, the benevolent god that he is, looked down at Single and gifted her with a horde of chickens that she had no pen for. Day 23. Tragedy struck when a raider murdered my rat, then destroyed the front gate to my pen that I hadn't even built yet. If I'm being honest, I was more upset about the pen than the rat. The pen hadn't been finished yet because Single ruins everything she touches. Now I got to deal with the grief of losing a companion, and I get to sit there and watch Single try to bullshit her way through building a pen. Fantastic. Day 25. We had another raid, but this time, Single decided to OD on hornet ketamine, then lock herself inside. There was a perfectly good merchant just milling about the property, so we decided to let him handle the mess. Not only did this merchant fail us, he allowed the raider to break my gate. Again. The most goddamn free-range chickens ever live at my colony, and it's because people keep letting them out in the process of trying to murder me. I took the merchant inside and bandaged him up. My hope was I could get him on his feet and back to his people for the rep bonus. That didn't happen. Day 34. I finally installed the traps in my murder hallway. Yumiko, faithful companion that she is, made the bold decision to test them herself. Then, smelling blood, a lindworm and a pair of rabid cats rushed my base. The cats were okay, but the lindworm put me in a tough spot. I was going to be trapped inside while it was awake if I didn't want to risk it hunting me. I'm a prideful man who proudly prides himself on his pride, and believe me when I tell you, I'm not going out there to fight a fucking gigasnake. I know my limits. It wouldn't be until day 39 that the lindworm would leave my presence. To make up for Single's immense cabin fever, Maynard sent a care package of exactly what I needed. Chocolate. Calorie-dense, filling, and full of recreation. The perfect meal for a basement-dwelling cave person who spends all of her time staring at notebooks and avoiding the sun. The chocolate was, as it turns out, filled with the bubonic plague. Black Death chocolate. On September 11, a day that will live in infamy, Single's fight for her life began. Except it turns out that herbal teas are enough to treat one of the deadliest diseases known to man. Single wasn't going to die from this, which was great, but she was going to spend the next few days accomplishing nothing. I will say though, getting a 0% tend rating did get my heart pounding pretty good. That was exciting. I'm sure that won't happen again. 2 days after getting the plague, a deer got in a fight with Yumiko. She and Single were then immediately attacked by a man with a knife who almost shanked both of them to death. Full plate, great sword, highly skilled in combat, almost lost to a man with a dagger. I love it here. Single was so angry about it that she full-on beheaded the poor man. I didn't even know that could happen. The next few days flew right by. At this point, encounters were starting to become kind of rare. I expanded my storage and the trap hallway. In hindsight, this really could have been shaped better, but I never said I was good at this game. 'Cause I'm not. I'm actually really fucking terrible at it. The comment section's just too nice to tell me. It turns out, Single wasn't the only one who got caught in the grasp of pestilence. I was staring out at my enormous horde of chickens, trying to figure out what I should do with them. I didn't have a freezer, I didn't have enough food for them, they were just a tiny little army of fat bastards who were destroying the ecosystem around them. Grass literally could not grow fast enough to support them. Then, Maynard waved his magic wand, and he crop dusted my livestock with bird COVID. The decision had been made for me. The culling had begun. And, as if he really wanted to push the point home, Maynard sent a dare in who started eating my other chickens. Did I want it to do that? No, but that didn't matter. That's a dare. It can do whatever it wants. I'm in absolutely zero position to argue with him about it, because he can murder me. The Thrumbos wanted to nap in my potatoes, and you know what I said? Yep, have fun, enjoy your stay. Humans are not the top of the food chain in this mod, and if the gigantic beasts of legend want to frolic in my fields, I'm not about to try and stop them. The next week was filled with a lot of, well, nothing. Mostly just a lot of construction and turning Single's little hovel into a somewhat livable space. Just because you're a malignant gremlin unfit for society doesn't mean you have to live like it. In real life, I'm usually one of the first to tell people to try and make the best of a bad situation. Tidy up the problems where you can so the small issues don't become big ones. Do I live by this advice? No, I'm a fucking Neanderthal crossbred with a potato farmer. I'm not a functional member of society. But you know what? At least I don't strip naked and run around in some random stranger's fields. I have enough composure and decency to not do that. Usually. Single went out to try and remove our new guest, only to destroy my goddamn chicken gate again. We put her down, then she immediately got back up just to spite me. And because Single's aim is the most cancerous thing I've ever seen, the random hobo had enough time to heal herself. When we finally dropped her, I got to see what might be the most mangled character I've ever seen in any run of Rimworld. That is a catastrophic level of trauma and illness all in one squishy meat sack. Heat stroke, infection, countless injuries, everything that could be wrong with this person is more or less here. The only thing I don't see is a severe case of missing limbs. Yet. Day 79. This was the day when everything started to fall apart around me. Single cooked a hearty meal in the filthiest kitchen money can buy. 4 of them, actually. For the next 3 days, every time Single ate, she got progressively more and more violently ill. Now, I had other meals lying around, but my curiosity was morbid and I never claimed to be a merciful god. I needed to know if all 4 of those meals were contaminated. Yes, they were. And somehow, despite almost dying of dysentery and starvation, Single had still yet to have a mental breakdown. This girl was an absolute trooper, and we love her for that. If I could have her in any of my future colonies, I'd take her in a heartbeat. Despite all the struggles and challenges, she had not only survived, but flourished. Over the next few weeks, I got to watch her expand and improve the colony while just living her life. At the start of this challenge, it seemed ludicrous that someone could make it alone in the brutal life of a Rimworld pawn. Now, we were well into over an in-game year with no signs of slowing down. We were getting close to the finish line. To help keep the livestream entertaining, I took a quest to shelter someone from a group of raiders. This did mean someone would be joining my colony, but only for a moment. They weren't allowed to cook or clean or help in any meaningful way. Samden's only job was to sit in the corner and look pretty. After Single disposed of my new guests, Samden was given a very simple task. The insectoids in the corner of the map hadn't been fed in a while. So I sent him over to supply fresh nutrients. Despite being weak, unarmed, stupid, and unattractive, he did manage to beat one of the little ones to death before they mobbed him. I was actually a little proud of his efforts. I wasn't proud of Single for stepping on her own trap when I wasn't looking. I also wasn't proud of her breaking the chicken gate again when she was trying to fend off a raider. Day 94. At 8 a.m., I received a notification that Single had caught the flu. This girl survived infected wounds, raids from insectoids, and even the Black Death. But this flu was different. It was spiteful. Vengeful even. And this is where everything went to complete shit. Single wasn't a doctor, and all she had were herbal remedies. Treating diseases like this is less than ideal. Her first tend was okay. Her second one was bad. Then her third came up. This would decide if she would live to see the sunrise, if she would make it to that 100-day finish line. And she made a great leap backward with a staggering 2.8% heal on herself. It was over. Day 96 had rolled around, and I decided to call it. Single was going to die from the common flu, and there was nothing I could do about it. I released her faithful canine companion to the wilderness. Yumiko had served her well, and it was time for her to find a new life elsewhere. As for Single, she deserved a warrior's death. I sent her to the insectoid pit where so many others had fallen, sword in hand. And I gotta say, if she was full health with some combat stims, I think she would have won that fight. Single was actually really good at murdering people with that greatsword. Like, unnervingly good. It was the only real redeeming quality she had. My run officially ended at 11 a.m. on September 6, 96 days into the challenge. I had a lot of fun, and it's definitely something I'd be willing to try again. Anyway, that's about as far as I could make it. If you've tried this challenge yourself, let me know down in the comments. A huge thanks to my patrons for helping support this channel, as well as my work. More content's on the way, so stay tuned. Thank you all again, and I'll see you all next time.